This is a snapshot, a moment, a sneak inside the minds of our graduates. This is Season 1, Class of 2020.
My name is Emer and I studied history. I did do joint honours in my first year but then dropped it, but you know. Because I feel like after the past couple of months, they've probably in a way been quite a low point, I think, for everybody, including myself. But weirdly now, and kind of I think since September, I felt strangely good. I think it's just my headspace, my perspective, I think was really doom and gloom at the beginning, whereas now I've had that time to process the reality of our situation and kind of try and figure out a way to make me happy kind of on the day to day, which I think has really, done some good in terms of my own kind of perspective and feelings on everything at the minute. I had planned to move to London for a job, then COVID happened, that fell through, and because I'd thought that I had that job in London, I moved back home for a couple of months because I was like, I'm not going to be in Edinburgh and it's just going to be wasting money and rent and things like that. But I felt so separated from like the life that I'd built, and then from the plans not to happen, I was then kind of stuck at home like, oh my God, I don't know what to do and I haven't got any prospects and this is just a mess. And then basically it come September, I decided to move back to Edinburgh and just find my headspace again without me feeling kind of just overwhelmed. It's just made such a difference, I think, for me, just on a personal level, and also kind of distinguishing between what I saw in terms of my academic and career progression and my own personal development and happiness. Because I think I often put the two together and I was like, if I don't succeed in my career or in my academia constantly and I'm not progressing constantly, then it's a reflection on my own happiness. Whereas I think I found over the past couple of months to kind of separate that and say, actually, there are other things that I can focus on that are equally as important to my own just kind of mental health and my own well-being. With COVID, you can't predict. And I think that was something, again, had an issue with not being able to plan constantly. And then when it fell through, not knowing where to go from there. And I think by now I've got to that point where I'm kind of happy with just seeing how things go. Obviously, first came here, it was, the first time moving away from home. I didn't really know what was going on. I think, again, first year and experiences at uni are very different, I think, in reality from what you're kind of told. It definitely feels a lot more like home in a way. I had prepared myself for like moving down to London and I was really excited about it. But also, I kind of knew deep down, if there was ever a chance that I could move back to Edinburgh maybe, then I'd jump at it. So then I was like, well, I'm not really doing anything, so I may as well just take that opportunity and where I can. And, I might not be, it's not even necessarily that my life's on hold at the minute. I think it's just, I needed to be somewhere that made me feel more productive, and Edinburgh, provided that for me. So I think the past couple of weeks I've done a lot of cover letters, a lot of just kind of scrolling job forums, career hub, all that sort of stuff. I think leaving uni, again, I didn't have a massive idea of what I wanted to do, and the job that I had lined up was for teacher training. When I heard that I wasn't going to be doing it this year, it kind of sent me into is this what I want to do? And maybe I'm making the wrong decision and it's a 2-year commitment. So yeah, I think in a way it was extremely stressful and kind of triggered this strange existential crisis. It has given me a bit of time to kind of level off and say, well, okay, this is definitely an option for me and I can do this, or I can, have a little look around and see if I want to look at certain master's courses, or if there's, other jobs that I hadn't thought about when I was rushing around in my final year trying to find a job. Now that kind of the worst case scenario in my own head had happened, I'm kind of like, well, actually, in a way, the positive I can take from that is that I have the freedom to have that time and that patience, and that, we're not in a rush anywhere, and, normal is going to take so many different forms. So you have that kind of breathing space to say, I can take some time here to think things through. Did have a part-time job, so I work for the student union. So usually I'd be going there, but obviously with added lockdown measures, that is no longer as possible. So I'm kind of trying to fill some of my day at least with something kind of reasonably productive, because I do think there's a lot of pressure on people to be productive all the time, and I think that's just not sustainable, that's not feasible, especially in these circumstances. So I think a lot of my day has just been me giving myself that break to be like, no, you can watch the TV. I think that pressure is in a way quite good because it keeps you on your toes, but it can't get to the point where it's making your life an absolute misery. And I think it's a really weird balance, and I think I've no one's mastered it, but I think like the past couple of months have definitely given me that push to be like, you need to stop putting so much pressure on yourself to succeed at every single thing or moment in time, because it's impossible. And I think after everything that had happened, there was part of me that kind of started blaming myself in a way, because I was like, well, I could have done this, or I should have maybe had a backup job, or all this. And again, you just dig yourself into a hole where some things don't work out the way you want them to, but also that doesn't actually mean that it's a failure or the worst thing ever, because then new opportunities can come out of that. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to keep thinking about anyway. I feel like I've come across as kind of ultra like positive or optimistic about things, and I think again that is in a way something you do have to put on. I think people try really hard to be happy. It's not just something that kind of seamlessly falls into place, at least not for myself. And so again, it's just realizing that when things don't go right, it's fine to be just stressed and kind of have a coping mechanism, because I think we've kind of emerged from this culture where everything has a solution and everything kind of, there's responsibility on yourself to make sure that like you're okay. And actually, again, with the pandemic, social distancing makes that human connection so much more difficult. But just being able to reach out and realize that the bad days are okay.
We also ask our graduates to share a place, somewhere special, somewhere we can get together when all this is finished.
Specifically related to kind of COVID, it's a bit of a random one, because basically 2 weeks before I think lockdown fully came into place, or I think maybe a bit before that, me and my friends decided to take a trip to a place called Rathmullen, just like in Donegal, and we were just writing on our dissertations and chatting about things. And it was just such a wholesome time. And basically there was one moment where, again, the weather was terrible. It was like rain and storm, but then there was like one morning where we took a walk down along the beach, and kind of climbed over these rocks when the rain had kind of subsided. And again, we were just talking about our futures and where we saw ourselves, where we didn't see ourselves. Kind of there was a mixture of us, because kind of ironic, because I was the only one that knew what I was going to do. And then that kind of flip-sided, whereas one of my other friends, she's kind of figured out what she wants to do in the midst of this, so it's possible. And again, we were just kind of talking about things and the fears and the excitement and all that sort of stuff, and I think it was just so picturesque, because we were looking across like the loch and like a rainbow had formed, and I think it was just a really nice kind of wholesome moment before all this kind of happened. And I was in a very different place and mindset, and I don't know, I feel like it was quite a special moment. So I think I would like everyone to kind of have experienced that moment, because it was just it was really nice.
Thank you for listening. Join us next time for another graduate and another story.
You're not on your own when it comes to planning for your future. Your University of Edinburgh community is here to support you, and this includes ongoing support for recent graduates from the Careers Service. Why not take a look at our website to find out more about how we can support you get the future that you want? Go to ed.ac.uk/careers to get started.